Admiral Kim Tai-ho stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. The ship Harmony's Dawn moved quietly through space, carrying diplomats to another peace meeting. For 6,000 years, the galaxy had known only peace. Wars were stories from ancient books, and weapons were museum pieces. Tai-ho smiled as he watched his crew work. Humans had become the galaxy's favorite peacekeepers. Every species trusted them to solve problems without violence. His own people had forgotten how to fight, and that was fine with everyone. Dr. Park Minji walked onto the bridge holding her data pad. She was the ship's chief scientist and expert on alien life. "Admiral, we're getting close to the meeting point. The Vexari and Nethans are both here waiting for us." "Good," Tai-ho said. "What's their problem this time?" "Trade routes," Minji replied. "The Vexari want to use a shortcut through Nethan space. The Nethans say it will disturb their meditation zones." Tai-ho nodded. These small problems were normal. His job was to help everyone find a solution that made everyone happy. He had done this thousands of times before. Captain Lee Dong-hyuk came over to them. He was Tai-ho's second-in-command and best friend since their academy days. "Sir, both sides are ready to talk." They're waiting in the conference room. The three humans walked to the meeting room. Inside, the Vexari representative looked like a living crystal, glowing softly blue. The Nethan floated in a special gas tank, looking like a cloud with eyes. Both aliens smiled when they saw the humans come in. "Thank you for coming," the Vexari said, its voice like music. "We know humans always find the best answers." The meeting went well. Tai-ho suggested a new route that would help the Vexari trade, but keep the Nethan meditation zones safe. Both sides agreed quickly. They shook hands, or whatever they had instead of hands, and signed the peace agreement. "Another successful day," Dong-hyuk said as the aliens left. 6,000 years of peace and still going strong. Tai-ho felt proud. Humans were good at this. They had learned to solve problems with words instead of weapons. The galaxy was better because of it, but then alarms started ringing all over the ship. "Admiral," a voice called from the bridge. "Emergency message coming in?" Tai-ho ran back to the bridge, Minji and Dong-hyuk right behind him. The communications officer, Lieutenant Park Soo-hyun, looked scared. "Sir, it's from the Outer Rim. Something big is happening." "Put it on screen," Tai-ho ordered. The main screen showed a recording from a remote outpost. The camera was shaking, and explosions could be heard in the background. A human officer appeared on screen, his uniform torn and bloody. "This is Station Aurora 7, the officer said, breathing hard. "We're under attack. Ships we've never seen before. They just appeared and started shooting. Our shields can't stop them. They're destroying everything." The recording cut off suddenly. Tai-ho felt cold. "When was this recorded?" 3 hours ago, sir," Soo-hyun replied. "But there's more. We're getting reports from 12 other systems, all under attack." More recordings played on the screen. Different planets, different stations, but the same story everywhere. Unknown ships appearing and destroying everything they found. The weapons were unlike anything anyone had seen. They cut through modern shields like they were made of paper. Then a new signal came in. This one was different. It was a message meant for everyone in the galaxy to hear. The screen showed a creature that looked like a giant insect mixed with a machine. Its eyes glowed red and metal parts covered its body. When it spoke, its voice was deep and frightening. "I am Admiral Vextar of the Korvash Empire," the creature said. "For too long this galaxy has been weak. You have forgotten the strength that comes from war. You have grown soft with your peace." Tai-ho's hands gripped the rail in front of him. He had heard of the Korvash in history classes. They were supposed to be extinct, destroyed in wars 8,000 years ago. "We have returned," Vextar continued, "and we bring the fire of war with us. Your peaceful worlds will burn. Your weak fleets will break like toys. Only the strong deserve to live, and we are the strongest of all." The message ended, leaving the bridge in complete silence. Minji was the first to speak. "Admiral, if the old records are right, the Korvash were the most dangerous warriors the galaxy ever saw. They lived only for war and conquest." Dong-hyuk checked his computer. "Sir, I'm reading massive fleet movements on the rim. Hundreds of ships, maybe thousands, all heading toward the inner systems." Tai-ho felt something he had never felt before, fear, real fear. The galaxy had been peaceful for so long that no one remembered how to fight a real war. Their ships were built for exploration and diplomacy, not battle. His communication system beeped. A message came in with the highest security codes. It was from Earth, from the government itself. "Admiral Kim Tai-ho, the message said. You are ordered to return to Earth immediately. Operation Genesis Protocol is now active. Tell no one about this order. Come home now. Taiho stared at the message. Genesis Protocol. He had never heard of it, but the codes were real. Earth wanted him home right away. Set course for Earth, he told his crew. Maximum speed. What about the Confederation meeting? Dong-hyuk asked. They'll want all peacekeeping ships to work together against this threat. Taiho looked at his oldest friend. He wanted to tell him everything, but his orders were clear. Earth has other plans for us. As Harmony's dawn turned toward home, Taiho watched the news reports coming in. More systems under attack. More peaceful worlds destroyed. The Corvash were not just winning. They were crushing everything in their path. The galaxy's combined fleets tried to fight back, but their weapons were too weak. Their tactics were designed for keeping peace, not for war. The Corvash had spent 8,000 years preparing for this day, while everyone else had forgotten what war even looked like. Ambassador Choi Hyejin called from the Confederation capital. Her face on the screen showed complete panic. Taeho, where are you going? We need every ship we can get. The council is falling apart. No one knows what to do. I have my orders, Ambassador, Taeho replied. Earth will help, but in our own way. What way? What aren't you telling me? Taeho ended the call without answering. He could not tell her about Genesis Protocol because he did not understand it himself. But something deep inside him, something he had never felt before, was waking up. The peaceful galaxy was burning, and humanity was going home to remember something they had forgotten long ago. 3 months had passed since the Corvash invasion began. They now controlled almost half the galaxy. Refugee ships filled human space, carrying survivors from destroyed worlds. The aliens expected humans to build refugee camps and offer comfort, just like they always had. Instead, they found something that shocked them. Earth had become a fortress. Every city was now a military base. Every human was now a soldier. The peaceful gardens were still there, but now they hid weapon storage areas and training grounds. The meditation centers had become command posts for planning battles. Commander Bae Ji-hoon stood in what used to be the Seoul Art Museum. Now it was the headquarters of the newly formed war. Caste. Humans who had been painting pictures 3 months ago were now planning battle strategies that could destroy entire fleets. The refugee leaders want to meet with us, his aide reported. They want to know why we're not helping them organize defense committees and peace talks. Ji-hoon smiled coldly. Tell them we are helping. We're going to end this war. Master Tactician Oh Sulgi entered the room carrying data pads filled with information. She had been a philosophy teacher before the awakening. Now she was one of humanity's greatest military minds, as if the knowledge had been sleeping inside her all along. The Corvash pattern analysis is complete, she reported. They're good warriors, but predictable. They use the same tactics they used 8,000 years ago, just with better technology. What's our advantage? Ji-hoon asked. They learn to fight by fighting. We learn to fight by studying everyone who ever fought. We know their moves before they make them. On the main screen, reports showed Corvash victories across the galaxy. But Sulgi pointed out details that others missed. Look at how they attack. Always the same formation. Always the same targets first. They're strong, but they don't adapt. Captain Shin Woo-bin joined the meeting. He had been a commercial pilot before the awakening. Now he commanded the experimental warship Prometheus Unbound, one of the first vessels built in the Genesis vaults. My ship is ready, he reported. All systems tested and working perfectly. Good, Ji-hoon said. It's time for the galaxy to see what humans can do when we stop being peaceful. The plan was simple but brutal. The Prometheus Unbound would find a Corvash fleet and destroy it completely. Not just defeat it, but destroy it so thoroughly that the news would spread fear throughout the Corvash Empire. Woo-bin's ship left human space alone, heading for the Corvash front lines. It was much smaller than the huge Corvash dreadnoughts, but it was built using 6,000 years of collected knowledge about warfare. The target was Admiral Kreshahar's fleet, 12 massive warships that had just destroyed 3 peaceful worlds. They were moving toward the human border, expecting an easy victory against the weak peacekeepers. Woo-bin found them near a dead system, refueling their ships. His single vessel approached the entire fleet openly, broadcasting a message on all frequencies. I am Captain Shin Woo-bin of the human warship Prometheus Unbound, he announced. You have murdered peaceful civilians and destroyed defenseless worlds. Surrender now or be destroyed. The Corvash fleet responded with laughter and weapons fire. 12 dreadnoughts opened fire at once. enough firepower to destroy a small moon. But the human ship moved differently than anything they had ever seen. It twisted through space like it was dancing, avoiding every shot. Its shields absorbed the few hits that connected without even flickering. Then Prometheus Unbound began to fight back. The human weapons were unlike anything in the galaxy. They didn't just break through Corvash shields. They turned the shields into weapons against the ships themselves. The first dreadnought exploded before its crew even understood what was happening. Wubin's tactics were perfect. He used the Corvash ships' positions against each other, making them afraid to shoot because they might hit their own allies. He attacked their engines first, leaving them helpless. Then he destroyed their weapons, leaving them defenseless. Only then did he destroy them completely. But the real weapon was not the technology. It was the way Wubin fought. He broadcasted everything on open channels, making sure every surviving Corvash could hear his voice as he calmly destroyed their fleet. "Your admiral taught you to fight like animals," Wubin said as he destroyed the 8th ship. "We learned to fight like gods." When it was over, 11 of the 12 dreadnoughts were destroyed. Wubin let the last ship escape, but not before uploading something into their computers, a message that would spread throughout the Corvash fleet. "Tell your leaders," the message said. "Humanity has remembered how to make war. We are coming for you." News of the impossible victory spread across the galaxy in hours. One human ship had destroyed an entire Corvash fleet without taking any damage. The refugee species suddenly looked at their human protectors very differently. Some aliens were terrified. They packed their ships and ran to the farthest corners of the galaxy, afraid that the humans might turn their weapons on them too. But others begged to join the human military, wanting to learn how to fight like that. Back on Earth, Ji-hoon watched the reports with satisfaction. Phase 1 complete. Now we move to Phase 2. On Mars, the first human war college was opening. Alien refugees who wanted to fight back were being trained in human military tactics. But they were also being taught human military ethics, how to be deadly but not evil, how to destroy enemies without becoming monsters. The instructors were humans who had been teachers and social workers just months before. Now they were teaching aliens how to use weapons that could cut through mountains and tactics that could outsmart any enemy. "War is not about anger," one instructor told his mixed class of humans and aliens. "Anger makes you stupid. War is about being so good at destroying your enemies that they surrender rather than fight you." Admiral Vextar received the report of Kreshar's defeat in his command ship. For the first time since the invasion began, he felt something he had not felt in 8,000 years. Doubt. "How is this possible?" he asked his advisors. "Humans are peaceful. They know nothing of war." Perhaps, one of his generals suggested carefully. "We were wrong about them." Vextar's eyes glowed with rage. "Impossible. We are the Corvash. We are the ultimate warriors. No peaceful species can defeat us." But privately, he ordered his intelligence officers to find out everything they could about human military capabilities. What they discovered made him very worried. Reports started coming in from across human space. Every human world was now armed with weapons that could destroy fleets. Every human civilian could fight like a professional soldier. The species that had kept peace for 6,000 years had become the most dangerous military force the galaxy had ever seen. And they were just getting started. The transformation was spreading beyond just humans. Alien species that had been peaceful for generations were learning human military tactics and starting to fight back against the Corvash. The war was changing from a Corvash victory march into something much more dangerous. The galaxy was learning that humanity's long peace had not made them weak. It had given them time to become perfect at something they had always been good at, adapting to survive, and making war so terrible that their enemies would choose peace instead. Admiral Na Yujin stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the tactical display. 6 months ago, she had been a cargo ship captain, moving supplies between peaceful worlds. Today, she commanded the Human Expeditionary Force, the largest military fleet humanity had ever assembled. The transformation still amazed her sometimes. She remembered being peaceful, caring only about safe deliveries and happy customers. Now she thought in terms of battle formations and strategic objectives. The knowledge felt natural, like it had always been there waiting for her to need it. "Admiral," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving surrender requests from the Corvash garrison at Kepler Station." Eugen smiled coldly. "Tell them we don't accept surrenders. We accept integration or destruction. Their choice. The human offensive had been going on for 2 months now. World after world was being liberated from Corvash control, but not in the way anyone expected. The humans didn't just defeat the Corvash forces. They destroyed them so completely that other Corvash commanders started abandoning their positions rather than face human fleets. Intelligence Officer Lim Kyung-soo approached the Admiral's chair. Before the awakening, he had been a children's counselor helping young aliens adjust to life on peaceful worlds. Now he specialized in breaking enemy minds without even fighting them. The psychological warfare campaign is working better than expected, he reported. Corvash morale is collapsing across 3 entire sectors. They're calling us the nightmare species in their communications. Show me, Eugen ordered. The main screen displayed intercepted Corvash messages. Kyung-soo had been studying their psychology for months, learning exactly what scared them most. Then he had designed a campaign to make them so afraid of humans that they would defeat themselves. Listen to this, Kyung-soo said, playing a recording of Corvash officers talking to each other. The humans don't just kill you, one Corvash voice said, trembling with fear.
They study you while they kill you.
They learn everything about how you think, how you fight, how you fear, then they use it all against the next enemy. I heard they can predict what you're going to do before you do it, another voice replied. How do you fight an enemy who knows your moves before you make them? Eugen nodded with satisfaction. Perfect. Fear is more effective than weapons sometimes. Dr. Jeon Ariam joined them on the bridge. She had been a veterinarian before the awakening, caring for alien pets. Now she was humanity's leading expert in xeno-warfare adaptation, finding ways to counter every type of alien military technology. Admiral, I've completed the analysis of Corvash battle tactics from the last 100 engagements, she reported. They're adapting, but slowly. We're still evolving faster than they are. This was the key to human success. The Corvash were excellent warriors, but they fought the same way they had for thousands of years. Humans studied every battle, learned from every victory and defeat, and became better with each fight. What's our next target? Hyujin asked. Kepler Station, Ariam replied. It's their main supply base for this sector. If we take it, their entire front line collapses. Kepler Station was a massive fortress built inside an asteroid. The Corvash had spent decades making it impossible to attack. But humans didn't think like other species. They didn't attack the strongest point. They attacked the weakness their enemies didn't know they had. The human fleet approached Kepler Station openly, broadcasting surrender demands. The Corvash commander, General Thexmore, responded with insults and threats. This was exactly what Eugen wanted. He's angry, Kyung-soo observed. Angry enemies make mistakes. The battle began with the Corvash using their standard tactics. They fired their biggest weapons first, trying to destroy the human fleet quickly, but the human ships moved in patterns that made no sense to traditional military thinking. Instead of attacking the station directly, they attacked the space around it. They destroyed the supply ships first, then the communication relays, then the escape pods. They surrounded the station completely but didn't fire a single shot at it. What are they doing? Thexmore asked his officers, watching the human ships on his screens. I don't know, General. His tactical officer replied. They're not following any battle plan we've ever seen. That was the point. Human warfare had evolved beyond traditional thinking. They didn't just want to destroy their enemies. They wanted to control them completely. The human ships began broadcasting something into the station. Not weapons fire, but information. Data about every battle the Corvash had lost. Videos of Corvash fleets being destroyed. Messages from Corvash prisoners who had chosen to join the human military rather than die. Psychological warfare, Thexmore realized. They're trying to break our will to fight, but it was too late. The broadcasts were having their effect on his soldiers. Corvash warriors who had never known fear were starting to doubt. Some were even asking if surrender might be better than death. Then the humans did something unexpected. They stopped attacking entirely. Admiral Eugen opened a direct communication channel to the station. Her face appeared on Thexmore's main screen, calm and confident. General Thexmore, she said, I am offering you a choice that no Corvash has ever been given before. I will not surrender, Thexmore roared. I'm not asking you to surrender, Eugen replied. I'm offering you evolution. She explained humanity's new approach to warfare. Instead of destroying enemies, they integrated them. Former Corvash warriors were being retrained in human tactics and fighting alongside human forces. They kept their strength but learned better ways to use it. Join us, Eugen said, and your warriors become part of something greater. Refuse and we'll destroy this station so completely that nothing will remain but dust. Thexmore looked around at his officers. He could see the doubt in their eyes. Some were already nodding, interested in what the human admiral was offering. You have 1 hour to decide, Eugen said, and ended the communication. During that hour, Kyungsu's psychological warfare reached its peak. The human broadcast showed former Corvash warriors working alongside humans, treated as equals and respected for their abilities. They showed human military technology being shared with integrated species. They showed a vision of war that was about building something better, not just destroying things. When the hour was up, Thexmore made his choice. Not because he was afraid, but because he could see that the humans offered something the Corvash Empire never had, a future beyond endless war. We accept. Integration, he announced. The process that followed amazed everyone involved. Human officers worked with Corvash warriors to adapt their tactics. Corvash strength was combined with human strategy. Within days, the former enemies were working together like they had been allies for years. News of the peaceful capture of Kepler Station spread throughout the galaxy. Other Corvash commanders started asking about integration instead of fighting to the death. Alien species that had been hiding from the war began asking to join the human military. Admiral Vextar, watching his empire fall apart, sent an emergency message to all Corvash forces. Fight to the death, he ordered. Show no mercy and accept no surrender. But his own commanders were ignoring him. They had seen what happened to forces that fought humans to the death, and what happened to those who chose integration. The choice was easy. The tide of war had turned completely. The Corvash Empire was collapsing not because it was being destroyed, but because it was being absorbed into something larger and better. Human strategy had evolved beyond simple victory into something that changed the nature of conflict itself. Eugen looked at the reports coming in from across the galaxy. Human fleets were winning everywhere. Not just through superior weapons, but through superior thinking. They were creating a new kind of military where former enemies became allies and war became a tool for building peace. Admiral, Kyungsu reported, we're receiving a priority message from Earth. High Command wants to know if we're ready for the final phase. Eugen smiled. Tell them we're ready. It's time to end this war and show the galaxy what humanity learned during our 6,000 years of peace. The journey to Earth took 5 days. 5 days of watching the galaxy burn on the news reports. The Corvash moved like a storm, destroying everything in their path. Peaceful worlds that had never known war were turned to ash in hours. Taiho could not sleep. He walked the halls of his ship thinking about the message from Earth. Genesis Protocol. What did it mean? Why was Earth calling home all its peacekeeping ships when the galaxy needed them most? Dr. Minji found him in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. Admiral, you look worried. What's happening? I don't know, Taiho replied honestly. But I think we're about to find out what humanity really is. When Earth appeared on their screens, it looked exactly the same as always. Beautiful blue oceans, white clouds, green continents, cities full of gardens and parks, art centers and meditation halls. It looked like the most peaceful world in the galaxy. But something was different. As they got closer, Taiho noticed more ships around Earth than he had ever seen before. Not just human ships, but ships from every peaceful species in the galaxy. Refugees running from the Corvash War. Landing control, this is Harmony's dawn, Captain Dong-hyuk said into his radio, requesting permission to land. Admiral Taiho, came the reply. You are ordered to land at Genesis Base. Coordinates are being sent now. Taiho frowned. Genesis Base? I've never heard of it. The coordinates led them to what looked like empty farmland in Korea. But as they got closer, the ground opened up. A massive landing platform rose from the Earth, hidden until now. Other ships were already there, all of them human peacekeeping vessels. What is this place? Minji whispered. They landed and were met by soldiers. Real soldiers. Not the peaceful security guards Taiho was used to. These men and women moved differently. They held weapons like they knew how to use them. Their eyes were sharp and dangerous. Admiral Taiho, one of them said, General Yoon Jae-won is waiting for you. Please follow us. They walked into an elevator that went deep underground. Down and down they went, much deeper than any building Taiho knew about. When the doors opened, he could not believe what he saw. The underground space was huge, bigger than the biggest city he had ever seen. Weapons factories stretched as far as he could see. Soldiers marched in perfect lines. Warships were being built at incredible speed. It was like a completely different world hidden under the peaceful earth. General Yoon Jae-won was waiting for them in a command center. He was an old man, but his eyes were young and fierce. When he shook Taeho's hand, the Admiral felt strength like he had never imagined. "Welcome to the Genesis Vaults, Admiral," Jae-won said. "I know you have questions. What is this place?" Taeho asked. "How long has it been here?" 6,000 years, Jae-won replied. "Since the day humanity signed the Treaty of Eternal Harmony. We promised the galaxy we would never make war again, but we never promised to forget how." Dr. Song Yoonbi joined them. She was the director of something called the Genesis Archives. "Admiral, everything you think you know about humanity is only half the truth. Yes, we became peacekeepers. Yes, we learned to solve problems without violence, but we never stopped studying war." She led them to a massive library filled with information about every conflict in galactic history. "For 6,000 years, we watched every battle, every strategy, every weapon that was ever used. We studied it all, but why?" Minji asked. "If we chose peace, why study war?" Jae-won answered. "Because we knew that someday someone would break the peace. And when that day came, we wanted to be ready." They walked deeper into the complex. Taeho saw humans working on weapons that looked impossibly advanced. Others were studying battle plans on computers that showed the entire galaxy. Everything was organized and efficient in a way that scared him. "The Korvash think they are the ultimate warriors," Song Yoonbi explained. "They spent 8,000 years preparing for war, but they have been fighting the same way for all that time. We spent 6,000 years learning from everyone who ever fought. We know their tactics better than they do." Tech Sergeant Kang Suman demonstrated some of the new technology. Weapons that could cut through any armor, shields that could stop any attack, ships that could move faster than anything the galaxy had ever seen. "But the weapons are not the real secret," Jae-won said. "The real secret is in here." He pointed to his head. "Every human carries the genetic memory of war. It's sleeping inside us, waiting." "What do you mean?" Taeho asked. "The process has already started," Song Yoonbi said. "Haven't you felt it? The anger when you saw the peaceful worlds burning? The need to fight back? That's your warrior nature waking up." Taeho realized she was right. He had been feeling different since the attack started. Sharper, more focused, ready for battle in a way he had never been before. "We are activating every human in the galaxy," Jae-won continued. "Farmers will remember how to be soldiers. Artists will remember how to build weapons. Teachers will remember how to plan battles. The peaceful humans the galaxy knows are about to become something else." They showed Taeho more of the complex. Training centers where humans were learning to fight. Command centers where strategies were being planned. Medical centers where soldiers were being enhanced with new technology. "How many people know about this?" Dong-yuk asked. "Every human government leader. Every military officer above the rank of captain. Every scientist working on advanced technology. We've been preparing for this day for 6,000 years. Minji looked scared. "But if we do this, if we become warriors again, what happens to the peace we built?" "The peace was always protected by strength," Jae-won replied. "The galaxy just forgot that strength needs to be ready to act. The Korvash are about to learn what happens when you wake up a sleeping giant." Alarms started ringing in the command center. A communications officer called out, "General, we have reports from across human space. The activation is working. Humans everywhere are remembering." On the screens around them, Taeho could see reports from human worlds across the galaxy. Peaceful cities were transforming into military bases. Art centers were becoming weapons factories. Meditation gardens were opening up to reveal hidden training grounds. "The transformation is not just mental," Song Yoonbi explained. "Our bodies are changing too. Becoming stronger, faster, more able to handle the stress of war. In another week, every human in the galaxy will be a perfect soldier." Taeho felt the change happening in himself. His peaceful thoughts were being replaced by tactical thinking. He looked at the reports from the war and started seeing patterns, weaknesses in the Korvash strategy that he could exploit. "What are our orders?" he asked, and his voice sounded different even to himself. Jae-won smiled, and it was not a peaceful smile. "Get back to your ship, Admiral. In 3 days we begin Operation Genesis. The Korvash wanted war. We're going to give them more war than they ever imagined." As Taeho walked back through the complex, He saw thousands of humans working with efficiency that amazed him. They moved like they had been soldiers all their lives, even though most of them had been farmers and artists just days before. The sleeping giant was waking up, and the galaxy was about to learn that humanity's 6,000 years of peace had not made them weak. It had made them deadly. The Corvash home system was surrounded. Admiral Kim Taiho's fleet hung in space around the three worlds that had been the heart of the Corvash Empire for 10,000 years. Every ship in his force was ready for the final battle, but Taiho had different plans. On the bridge of Harmony's Dawn, now upgraded with the most advanced human weapons, he watched the enemy forces preparing their defenses. Emperor Vextar had gathered every remaining Corvash ship to protect his homeworld. It would be the biggest battle in galactic history, but Taiho was going to try something that had never been done before. He was going to end a war without destroying his enemies. Diplomat An So-young stood beside him, reviewing her notes. 2 months ago, she had been working in an art gallery, helping aliens understand human culture. Today, she was humanity's lead negotiator, preparing for the most important peace talks in history. "Are you sure this will work?" she asked Taiho. "No," he replied honestly. "But if it does work, we'll change what war means forever." The communication system activated. Emperor Vextar's image appeared on the main screen, his insect-like face twisted with rage. Behind him, Taiho could see the magnificent crystal towers of the Corvash capital city. "Human Admiral," Vextar said, his voice filled with hate. "You come to my home system with your fleet of death. Do you think we will beg for mercy like the weaklings you've conquered?" "Actually," Taiho replied calmly, "I come to offer you something no conqueror has ever offered before. Not surrender, but partnership." Vextar's laugh was like breaking glass. "Partnership with you? We are the Corvash! We are the ultimate warriors. We do not partner with inferior species." "Then let me show you why you should," Taiho said. The human fleet began demonstrating their capabilities. Ships that could move faster than Corvash sensors could track them. Weapons that could cut through any armor ever made. Defensive systems that could stop entire fleets from attacking. But they weren't attacking the Corvash homeworld. They were simply showing what they could do. "This is what happens when you evolve beyond simple warfare," Taiho explained. "We spent 6,000 years learning from every battle ever fought. We know more about war than any species that ever lived. But we also learned that winning battles is not the same as winning peace." General Korthax, Vextar's military advisor, whispered something to his emperor. Even from a distance, Taiho could see the fear in the Corvash leader's compound eyes. "What do you want?" Vextar asked, his voice less confident than before. So-young stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. "Integration, not destruction. Your warriors join our military as equals. Your worlds become part of a larger alliance. Your strength is preserved and respected but guided by wisdom instead of anger." "Impossible," Vextar roared. "The Corvash bow to no one." "You wouldn't be bowing," Taiho said. "You'd be evolving. Look at what we've accomplished with the Corvash forces that joined us voluntarily." The main screen showed images from across the galaxy, former Corvash warriors working alongside human soldiers. Their natural fighting abilities enhanced by human strategy and technology. They were stronger than they had ever been as pure Corvash, and they were winning battles that pure Corvash forces had lost. "These warriors kept their pride," So-young explained. "They kept their culture and their strength. But they gained something new, the ability to fight for something greater than conquest." Philosopher General Kim Hoseok joined the conversation from Earth. He had been a meditation teacher before the awakening, helping aliens find inner peace. Now he was the architect of humanity's post-war vision, designing a galaxy where strength served wisdom. "Your Majesty," Hoseok said respectfully, "you have seen what happens when species fight against human strategy. But you have also seen what happens when they fight with us. Which future would you choose for your people?" Vextar looked around at his generals. Taiho could see the doubt in their faces. They had watched their empire crumble, despite having the most powerful military in the galaxy. They had seen species they considered weak defeat them using human tactics. "If we refuse?" Vextar asked. "Then we destroy your military completely and rebuild your civilization from scratch," Taiho replied matter-of-factly. "It will take longer and cause more suffering, but the result will be the same. Peace in the galaxy with or without your cooperation. You would commit genocide?" "No," So-young said firmly. "We would commit what we call cultural evolution. Your people would survive and prosper, but they would learn better ways to use their strength. The negotiation continued for hours. Tejo offered terms that no conqueror in history had ever offered. The Corvash military would be integrated into human command structure, but Corvash officers would keep their ranks and responsibilities. Corvash worlds would govern themselves but follow overall human strategic planning. Corvash culture would be preserved, but guided away from pure aggression toward constructive competition. During the talks, something unexpected happened. A group of Corvash generals led by Korthax contacted the human fleet directly. "Admiral Tejo," Korthax said in a private communication, "we have been watching this war carefully. We see that humans do not fight like other species. You do not destroy just to destroy. You build something better." "What are you saying, General?" Tejo asked. "We are saying that perhaps it is time for the Corvash to evolve. Emperor Vextar represents the old ways. We represent the possibility of new ways." Within hours, the Corvash military was splitting apart. Younger generals who had seen the effectiveness of human-Corvash cooperation were supporting integration. Older generals who remembered only the traditional ways were supporting Vextar's resistance. The civil war was brief. The pro-integration forces had learned human tactics during their months of fighting alongside human soldiers. They defeated the traditionalist forces quickly and efficiently. When it was over, Korthax appeared on Tejo's screen wearing new insignia that combined Corvash and human symbols. "Admiral," he said, "the Corvash Empire officially requests integration into the human military alliance. Emperor Vextar has been removed from power and will face trial for war crimes." "Not trial," Tejo corrected. "Rehabilitation. Even he will have a chance to learn better ways." The integration process began immediately. Human officers worked with Corvash commanders to redesign their military structure. Corvash warriors were retrained in human tactics while keeping their natural advantages. Corvash worlds were converted from fortress planets to productive members of galactic society. But the most important change was psychological. The Corvash had always believed that strength came from domination. Now they learned that true strength came from cooperation and strategic thinking. Within 6 months, former Corvash warriors were serving as elite units in the human military. Their natural aggression, guided by human strategy, made them incredibly effective at ending conflicts quickly and with minimal casualties. News of the peaceful conquest of the Corvash Empire spread across the galaxy. Species that had been hiding from the war came out of their shelters. Worlds that had been destroyed began rebuilding with human and Corvash help. The old Galactic Confederation, which had collapsed during the early days of the war, was replaced by something new. The Galactic Union, led by humans but including every species that wanted to participate, including the Corvash. Tejo stood on his bridge, looking out at the Corvash homeworld, now peaceful and prosperous. Construction ships were building new cities designed for cooperation instead of war. Former enemies were working together on projects that would benefit everyone. "Admiral," Soyoung reported, "we're receiving requests for integration from 15 more species. They want to join the Union voluntarily." "Good," Tejo replied. "Schedule diplomatic meetings with all of them. But remember, joining the Union means accepting our way of thinking about conflict. Strength in service of wisdom, not wisdom in service of strength." The war was over, but something greater had begun. Humanity had proven that the ultimate victory was not destroying your enemies, but transforming them into allies. The galaxy was learning that true peace came not from the absence of weapons, but from using weapons only to protect and build rather than to conquer and destroy. The price of victory had been paid not in blood, but in evolution. Everyone had to change, including humanity. They could never again pretend to be simple peacekeepers. They were now the guardians of galactic civilization, and that responsibility would last forever. 10 years had passed since the end of the Corvash War. The galaxy was more peaceful and prosperous than it had ever been in recorded history. Trade flowed freely between worlds that had once been enemies. Scientific discoveries were shared across species lines. Art and culture flourished in ways that amazed everyone. Director Park Jun-ho stood in his office at the Galactic Peace Institute, looking out at the beautiful city of New Geneva on Europa. The institute had been built where the old Confederation headquarters used to be, but it was designed very differently. Instead of meeting rooms for endless discussions, It had research labs where scientists studied the causes of conflict and how to prevent them. Junho had been a social worker before the war, helping troubled families on peaceful worlds. Now he led the galaxy's most important organization, one dedicated to keeping peace through strength and wisdom rather than just good intentions. "Director," his assistant called out, "Ambassador Kang Yeji is here for the morning briefing." Yeji entered the office and Junho smiled when he saw her. She represented everything good about the new galaxy. Half human, half Korvash, she had been born after the integration and grew up thinking of both species as family. Her diplomatic missions combined human strategic thinking with Korvash directness, making her incredibly effective at solving problems. "What's the status report?" Junho asked. 17 minor conflicts resolved this month, Yeji replied. 12 through negotiation, 5 through the threat of Union military action. No actual fighting required. This was how the galaxy worked now. The Galactic Union maintained military forces that were so obviously superior that most conflicts ended before they began. But when force was necessary, it was used precisely and efficiently, ending problems quickly rather than letting them grow into wars. "Any major concerns?" Junho asked. "Yes," Yeji said, her expression becoming serious. "Our deep space monitoring stations are detecting something unusual from outside the galaxy." She activated the holographic display in Junho's office. Images appeared showing massive objects moving through intergalactic space, heading toward their galaxy. "We're calling it the Void Swarm," Yeji explained. "It appears to be some kind of hive mind that consumes entire solar systems. Intelligence estimates indicate it will reach our outer systems in approximately 6 months. Junho studied the images carefully. The objects were unlike anything he had ever seen. They looked organic, like living creatures the size of moons, but they moved with mechanical precision. Wherever they passed, star systems went dark. "Have we made contact?" he asked. "We've tried. No response to any communication attempts. They just consume everything in their path and keep moving." This was exactly the kind of threat the new galactic order had been designed to handle. A single species could not face something this dangerous alone, but the combined forces of the Union might be able to find a solution. "Contact Admiral Tejo," Junho ordered. "It's time for an emergency assembly of the Union Defense Council." The meeting was held on Earth in the same chambers where the Genesis Protocol had been planned 10 years earlier. But now the participants included not just humans, but representatives from every species in the Union, including Korvash generals who had become some of humanity's most trusted allies. Admiral Tejo, now older but still sharp, studied the intelligence reports about the Void Swarm. Around the table sat the greatest military minds in the galaxy: human strategists, Korvash warriors, Vexari analysts, Nethan philosophers, and dozens of other species all working together. "This is unlike anything we've faced before," Tejo said. "The Korvash War was against opponents we could understand and negotiate with. This enemy doesn't seem to communicate at all." General Korthax, now wearing the insignia of the Union Defense Force, leaned forward. "My scouts report that the swarm doesn't just destroy worlds. It transforms them into something else. The consumed systems become part of the swarm itself." Dr. Song Yunbi, now head of Union military research, presented her analysis. "Based on long-range observations, we believe the swarm is not malevolent in the way we understand evil. It's more like a force of nature. It consumes and transforms because that's what it evolved to do." "Can we fight it?" asked Admiral Yujin, who now commanded the Union's largest fleet. "With conventional warfare?" "No," Yunbi replied. "The swarm is too large and too adaptive. Every weapon we use against it, it learns to counter. Traditional military thinking won't work." Tejo nodded thoughtfully. "Then we need to think beyond traditional military solutions. What does the swarm want? What does it need?" Master Tactician Sulgi, now one of the Union's chief strategic planners, had been studying the problem for weeks. "I don't think it wants anything in the way we understand wanting. It's driven by instinct, like a living organism that needs to feed and grow. Then the question becomes," Tejo said, "can we satisfy that instinct without losing our civilization?" The planning that followed was unlike anything in military history. Instead of designing ways to destroy the Void Swarm, the Union forces began developing ways to communicate with it. Instead of building weapons, they built translation devices that might help them understand a completely alien form of consciousness. The first contact attempt was made by Ambassador Yeji, leading a small diplomatic fleet to the edge of Union space. They approached one of the smaller swarm entities, broadcasting every form of communication they could think of. For days, there was no response. Then slowly, the swarm began to react, not with words or images, but with changes in its behavior. It stopped consuming the nearby asteroid field and began moving in patterns that seemed almost like a dance. "It's trying to communicate," Yeji reported back to Earth. "But not the way any species we know communicates. It's sharing experiences directly, showing us what it is rather than telling us." Through this strange new form of communication, the Union learned the truth about the Void Swarm. It was not evil or aggressive. It was lonely. For millions of years, it had traveled between galaxies, consuming lifeless matter to sustain itself, always searching for other forms of consciousness to connect with. When it found inhabited galaxies, it tried to communicate by sharing its existence with other beings. But its method of communication involved breaking down and rebuilding matter at the molecular level. To the swarm, this was sharing. To other species, it was destruction. "It doesn't understand that we experience destruction differently than it does," Yeji explained to the Defense Council. "To the swarm, being broken down and rebuilt is just another form of existence. It thought it was offering us a gift. The solution when it came was brilliantly simple. Instead of fighting the Void Swarm, the Union offered to feed it. They identified dead solar systems, empty space, and lifeless matter that the swarm could consume without harming anyone. In exchange, they asked the swarm to learn new ways of communicating that wouldn't destroy the species it wanted to connect with. The process took months of careful negotiation and cultural exchange. Human diplomats worked with swarm entities to develop communication methods that both sides could use safely. Corvash warriors learned to see the swarm not as an enemy, but as a misunderstood neighbor. The result was unprecedented in galactic history. The Void Swarm became not a destroyer, but a builder. Its ability to transform matter at the molecular level was used to repair damaged worlds and create new habitats for growing populations. Its vast knowledge of other galaxies was shared with Union scientists, advancing their understanding of the universe by millions of years. In return, the Union gave the swarm what it had been searching for: connection with other conscious beings. Through careful cultural exchange, both sides learned to understand each other in ways that enriched everyone involved. 5 years later, Tejo stood again on the bridge of Harmony's dawn, but now he was not looking at a battlefield. He was looking at a construction site where swarm entities and Union engineers were working together to build a new type of space station, one that could serve as a meeting place for species from different galaxies. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving messages from the other local galaxies. They've heard about our success with the Void Swarm, and they want to establish diplomatic relations." Tejo smiled. "Send our standard response. The Galactic Union welcomes all peaceful contact, and we're ready to share what we've learned about building understanding between different forms of consciousness." As he watched humans, Corvash, and swarm entities working together on their impossible project, Tejo reflected on how much had changed. 20 years ago, humanity had been known as simple peacekeepers who solved small problems between friendly species. Now they were the architects of a galactic civilization that could turn even the most dangerous threats into opportunities for growth. The Genesis Protocol had awakened humanity's warrior nature, but it had also awakened something deeper: their ability to evolve beyond conflict itself. They had learned that true strength came not from the ability to destroy enemies, but from the wisdom to transform them into allies. The galaxy was no longer a place where peace was maintained through the absence of conflict. It was a place where peace was maintained through the presence of justice, understanding, and the knowledge that